We're ready for the countdown. All right, good evening. In compliance with Chapter 551, Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order a regular voting meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, September 21st, 2023, at 6:04 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at the AISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is streaming live on AISD TV and Apple TV. It's also being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T Uverse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. So welcome and thank you for joining us. We will move to the approval of the agenda. So Secretary Boswell, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Hunter to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. All right. Secretary Boswell, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representar, una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Te honro, bandera de Texas. Te juro lealtad, Texas. Un estado bajo Dios, uno e indivisible.
Thank you very much. So before we move into reports, and I do really hate to do this again, but it is there's a time-sensitive matter. So before we move into reports, the board will adjourn this meeting into executive session to discuss pending legal issues regarding the TEA proposed order, which is on our agenda tonight for consideration. So we should be back out here. Our goal is to be back here definitely by 7. If not earlier. So apologies in advance for that inconvenience. We will now recess the open meeting at 6:06 p.m. and move to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. We expect to be in executive session for, like I said, just a short-ish while. And the aim is to definitely be back here on the dais by 7 p.m., if not earlier. So thank you very much.
my name is Leah Kelly. I'm a parent of an Austin ISD SPED student. I live in Bowdoin, D6. Over the past several weeks, we have heard reassurances the SPED department are confident they will eliminate the evaluation backlog and address TEA's demands. Considering this is difficult to understand why the board would accept TEA's offer and the potential for consequences. Demands of Lone Star governance are an overreach requiring policy amendment that has nothing to do with special education. The board would relinquish too much control, including financial responsibilities and the ability to decide how taxpayer dollars are spent. Lone Star governance will also devastate our capacity to deal with real issues like mental health and teacher attrition that face the district, forcing us to endlessly discuss test scores. I do not support any decision that gives away our right to appeal. Why would we give this power to an agency and state government that has definitively proven they do not support the success of Austin ISD and its students? If the team of 10 truly has the confidence in the superintendent and special education department, I urge you to show the public this is true by rejecting this Trojan horse of an offer that will surely lead to increased levels of state control and not self-governance. Thank you.
This is Sharon Vane. I'm the parent of a current Bowie student and a 2022 AISD graduate speaking on agenda item 15.2. I've spoken twice on this issue and know this decision is not being made lightly by the board. Yet I would be remiss if I did not say once again that I think agreeing to this proposal will open up our board and district to demands from TEA that could have catastrophic consequences and may not even address in a meaningful way the ostensible issue at hand, which is improving our special education systems and framework. I fear the impacts of Lone Star governance on your work and the attendant impacts on all our district families. I have heard many of you express your own concerns in these meetings and can only conclude that the plan is that the gamble is worth it and achievable to avoid further TEA intervention. I hope you're right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Kelly. I am a product of Austin ISD, a teacher in Austin ISD, and a parent of a student in Austin ISD who receives both special education and mental health services. I live and vote in District 6. I'm calling tonight to address the Board of Trustees about agenda item 15.2. And I have observed many of the public meetings, including the last board meeting and a few committee meetings, and I have yet to hear anyone express support for the board accepting this deal from TEA, a deal that would severely hamstring the district's ability to service its population. And just in the spirit of representative democracy, I would encourage the board to listen to the feedback from the people, which is overwhelmingly asking them not to accept this deal. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service. And I believe that we can solve this problem. Good luck.
name is Leah Kelly. I'm a parent of an Austin ISD SPED student. I live in
All right, welcome back. We will now reconvene the open meeting at 6:59 PM. See, I told you we'd be back by 7. So thank you for your patience. So our next item is under the President's Report. So tonight, we were scheduled to vote on approving the Texas Education Agency proposed order regarding special education and a separate contract with the Lone Star Governance Coach, and that's through the Council of Great City Schools. To provide more time to review, the board will actually not consider these two items at tonight's meeting, and the administration has requested pulling both items. So the work session, in addition, the work session on meeting efficiencies that is scheduled for tonight will also be moved to next week, so that we can have that discussion aligned with the proposed order from TEA. All right, so we will schedule a special board meeting here next Tuesday, September 26th, to tentatively consider the proposed order from TEA and the Lone Star Governance contracts with the Council of Great City Schools. This meeting will include an opportunity for public testimony, and the final meeting time and attachments of the order for consideration will go live by Saturday, to provide time prior to the meeting for the public to review the order. So thank you for your patience on all of that. At this time, we would like to have trustees provide committee reports. So Vice President Foster, can you share the report for the Board Policy Committee?
I can, but I do wonder if it would be possible to simply include it in the minutes and proceed.
Does the board have any objection to that? No. Okay, I think we're cool with that.
Thank you.
I don't know if, and our board, council's not here, I don't know if that's the official legal term. We're cool with that. But is there?
Gavel it, we're done.
I know, Christine, if there's something I need to say, please let me know. Secretary Boswell, would you like to share your report for the Intergovernmental Relations Committee?
Would my colleagues like to hear the report? I think the special session people are aware, so I'll go ahead and read mine,
Yeah,
but it's
please
very
do.
brief. The Board Intergovernmental Relations Committee convened a meeting at 2:04 p.m. today. Trustees Boswell, Hunter, and Gonzalez were present. Dr. Jacob Reach and Edna Betts from the administration.
Cool with it works.
What's that?
Okay.
Oops.
We got it.
Oh, it's
Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. We're also present. We discussed a likely special session in October that the governor alluded to yesterday. We agreed that the legislative priorities we adopted for the 88th legislative session, the regular session that ended, will remain in place and cover the issues likely to be within the call for the special session, namely an increase in school funding and opposition to vouchers or any other programs that divert public tax dollars to privately run schools that are exempt from state and federal accountability and admissions requirements applicable to public schools. We also discussed ongoing efforts to coordinate with other school districts, education-related associations, trustees, and partners across the state to coordinate on efforts to support or oppose legislation. We also discussed the role that our recently created Advocacy Advisory Committee will play in advising the board about our future legislative priorities, and we discussed adding representatives of the various chambers of commerce as members of the Advocacy Advisory Committee. We have many different chambers in Austin: Young Chamber, Hispanic Chamber, Asian Chamber, many African American Chamber, LGBTQ Chamber, and in addition to Greater Austin Chamber. So be expecting some bylaws that will be on consent agenda for a future meeting, most likely. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Whitley Chu, can you share the report for the Austin Education Fund?
Yes. The Austin Ed Fund is preparing for our annual Inspire the Future luncheon on Monday, October 30th. The luncheon celebrates Austin ISD students and staff and will feature an address by Interim Superintendent Segura. We encourage AISD supporters to join us. Community members can learn more at austinedfund.org. The Ed Fund Board is currently working on its next strategic plan. The Board Strategic Planning Committee will begin meeting next week. The Ed Fund Board will meet next on October 19th.
All right, thank you, Trustee. Trustees, are there any other committee or training reports to share tonight? Cool. All right, well, next up, we have the Superintendent's report.
All right, good evening, President Singh and members of the board. So September 15th kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, and we are celebrating big time in Austin ISD. We have art displays, ballet folklorico, and mariachi performances. This is a wonderful opportunity to highlight our heritage and celebrate one of the many things that makes Austin ISD so great. For a list of all Austin ISD events, check out our recognition calendar at www.austinisd.org/calendars. We had a great event here. We got to see the Aikens High School Mariachi Band, and it was incredible. Just such a great experience, and just can't say enough about how wonderful a job they did. So what are y'all doing this weekend? Head over to the Austin ISD Showcase at the Palmer Event Center from 9 to 12. When you're there, you can learn about all the great programs and offerings in our schools. I hear they're going to be going, we're going to have mariachis, a drum line, and some of our amazing bands. Each campus will have a booth where you can learn more about what makes each school and each program special and unique. I know it may feel early, but now's the time to be thinking about where your child or student will be heading next year, and especially if they're in a transitional grade like pre-K, 5th, 6th, or 8th. You can start using our new School Finder system this Saturday, and it will be on display at the showcase. You can check out School Finder at www.austinisd.org/school-finder. Say school-finder, school-finder, just like that. Just say it that way. Enroll Austin, our new online enrollment and registration system, launches November 8th. This will be our one-stop shop for all our enrollment and registration needs. If you recall, we've had a couple presentations over the last several months, so really excited to launch that. On Monday, September 25th, we kick off our mental health and school safety conversations. Our students, families, and staff have valuable insights into how we can prevent and respond to critical incidents, and we want to hear from you. So we're going to work together to create physically and psychologically safe schools. Our event on Monday is virtual and starts at 6 p.m. for English, hosted by Dr. Nicole Cross, an Emmy Award-winning anchor and national mental health correspondent. At 7 p.m., Leslie Montoya will do our Spanish language event. Ms. Montoya is an Emmy-winning radio and television host and a coach of emotional intelligence. So we're really excited to kick that off. We have multiple events throughout all of our campuses, and we'll be able to be sure to send those out to our school communities. And so now I'd like to share a brief few words about some of our ostentatious schools. Last Friday, I was so pleased to join Mayor Watson in honoring 9 schools in the Mayor's Healthiest School Awards. The Mayor's Healthiest Schools are schools that have implemented healthy changes to create school environments that support the health and well-being of students. Trustee Whitley Chu and Trustee Hunter were both there with me celebrating down at City Hall. This year, Becker, Campbell, Cassis, Patton, Bettis, Rodriguez, T.A. Brown, and Williams were finalists in the elementary category, while Gus Garcia Young Men's Leadership Academy was a finalist in the middle school category. We are so proud of these campuses and can't wait to see the amazing work they will continue to do this year. Just a great event, and super just excited to be there and be supported by the city. On Tuesday evening, we had an absolute blast at the 50th annual Band Jamboree. We saw 13 amazing performances by our campuses. We saw hoverboards gliding, batons twirling, saxophones jamming, impressive drumming, and interpretive dancing. Ran into Trustee Gonzalez, ran into Trustee Kaufman, just a full house, just a great experience. We have such a talented group of students. I also want to make sure we recognize the educators who support this work. After a full day of teaching, they can take on additional duties of leading our bands and helping them put all these amazing performances together. We know it's hard work, and we very much appreciate them for that. The night actually concluded with the Texas State University performance, and they took the time to recognize 7 current band members who are Austin ISD graduates. That was awesome. By the way, they had everybody out there. They asked everybody to kind of drop, and then all of a sudden, the AISD graduates were in the middle. They then each shared what school they went to and what year they graduated. It was awesome. Since it was the 50th anniversary of the Band Jamboree, we also took a moment to recognize John H. Pearson, former coordinator of instrumental music from 1972 and 1990. Mr. Pearson started the Band Jamboree 50 years ago. His wife, Blanche Pearson, was there to accept the award in his honor. Thank you, Mr. Pearson, for starting this great tradition for Austin ISD. I know that I'm stoked for the 51st. It was awesome. It was really, really fun. And so that concludes my superintendent's report this evening. Thank you, trustees.
Thank you. All right, so we will now move to the public testimony for items on the consent agenda. Members of the public wishing to participate in the public testimony portion of our meeting called a dedicated AISD phone line in advance of the meeting to sign up to speak in person or to audio record their remarks. So tonight we have one person who signed up to speak in person, and we have 3 who left a recorded message. So our one in person, again, whether you come to give a complaint or praise, we ask that you reference the staff member by position or by abbreviated last name. So our one in-person speaker for tonight is Ken Zarafis.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent, my name is Ken Zarafis. I'm President of Education Austin. Wow. So we're not voting on it tonight, but boy, this is a big pill, right? It's really difficult, and I'm sorry you're having to face this. However, I want you to know that even though this is difficult, a more difficult pill would be conservator, and a more difficult pill than that is a state takeover. We must do everything in our power to prevent that. We encourage us to stay as far away from that as is absolutely possible. In the middle of all this, in the 25 years I've been in and around this district, there is no board that I have greater faith in, and there is no administration that we have greater trust in. And if we're going to go into this, then we feel that we can go into this with you, and we can fight this, and we can come out of it better. We know that the answers are not at the state. We know the answers are not at TEA. The answers are in this district with our teachers, our kids, our families, this board, and our interim superintendent. We're here to stand with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this concludes our in-person testimony. We will now play the recorded messages for public testimony, so please listen carefully.
Hello, my name is Leah Kelly. I'm a parent of an Austin ISD SPED student. I live in Bowdoin, D6. Over the past several weeks, we have heard reassurances the SPED department are confident they will eliminate the evaluation backlog and address TEA's demands. Considering this, it's difficult to understand why the board would accept TEA's offer and the potential for consequences. Demands of Lone Star governance are an overreach, requiring policy amendment that has nothing to do with special education. The board would relinquish too much control, including financial responsibilities and the ability to decide how taxpayer dollars are spent. Lone Star governance will also devastate our capacity to deal with real issues like mental health and teacher attrition that face the district, forcing us to endlessly discuss test scores. I do not support any decision that gives away our right to appeal. Why would we give this power to an agency in state government that has definitively proven they do not support the success of Austin ISD and its students? If the team of 10 truly has the confidence in the superintendent and special education department, I urge you to show the public this is true by rejecting this Trojan horse of an offer that will surely lead to increased levels of state control and not self-governance. Thank you.
This is Sharon Vane. I'm the parent of a current Bowie student and a 2022 AISD graduate speaking on agenda item 15.2. I've spoken twice on this issue and know this decision is not being made lightly by the board. Yet I would be remiss if I did not say once again that I think agreeing to this proposal will open up our board and district to demands from TEA that could have catastrophic consequences and may not even address in a meaningful way the ostensible issue at hand, which is improving our special education systems and framework. I fear the impacts of Lone Star governance on your work and the attendant impacts on all our district families. I have heard many of you express your own concerns in these meetings and can only conclude that the plan is that the gamble is worth it and achievable to avoid further TEA intervention. I hope you're right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Kelly. I am a product of Austin ISD, a teacher in Austin ISD, and a parent of a student in Austin ISD who receives both special education and mental health services. I live and vote in District 6. I'm calling tonight to address the Board of Trustees about agenda item 15.2. And I have observed many of the public meetings, including the last board meeting and a few committee meetings, and I have yet to hear anyone express support for the board accepting this deal from TEA, a deal that would severely hamstring the district's ability to service its population. And just in the spirit of representative democracy, I would encourage the board to listen to the feedback from the people, which is overwhelmingly asking them not to accept this deal. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service. And I believe that we can solve this problem. Good luck.
So this concludes public testimony. Trustees, are there any questions or clarifications? All right. So as a reminder, please feel free to share any general comments or questions on non-voting items with the board, or even, I guess, voting items, by email at trustees@austinisd.org. We will now move to the consent agenda. As shared earlier, we will pull item 9.1 from tonight's consent agenda, and we will move that to next week. And while this is not on the consent agenda, we will also pull item 15.2 to next week. Trustees, are there any other consent items anyone would like to pull for separate vote? Okay. Secretary Boswell, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 8.1 through 8.2 and 9.2 through 13.5.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Trustees, is there any discussion on any of these consent items? All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Hunter to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.2 and 9.2 through 13.5. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Right, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, it looks like we don't have any that were pulled. Well, we have abstention items.
You want to wait till we do?
Yeah, we'll get through all of this. So we will move to the abstention items for separate votes. Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion to approve item 14.1?
Yes, I move to approve item 14.1, approval of a partnership agreement between Austin Community College and Austin ISD for automotive collision repair and refinishing technician training for Austin ISD students.
That sounds amazing. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so trustees, is there any discussion on this item? All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Gonzalez to approve item 14.1. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? Those abstaining? All right, the motion passes with 6 in favor and 1 abstaining. No one in opposition. Okay, Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion to approve item 14.2?
Yes, I move to approve item 14.2, approval of an education affiliate agreement with University of Texas and Austin ISD to provide a clinical experience for student nurses.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, trustees, any discussion on this item? All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Gonzalez to approve item 14.2. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed and those abstaining. All right, so the motion passes as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, no oppositions, and 2 abstaining. Okay, the next item is item for separate vote, and tonight we have 2. Make sure. Yes. Yes. So Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion to approve item 15.1?
I move to approve item 15.1, determination of the appropriate number of police officers for each campus.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, trustees, is there any discussion on this item? All right, having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Hunter to approve item 15.1. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Those opposed? 2 opposed. And any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes with 5 in favor and 2 opposed. All right. As I mentioned earlier, we will not vote on item 15.2 tonight. Thank you. And we'll move that to next Tuesday. So Secretary Boswell, do we have a motion to approve item 15.3?
Yes, as part of state law, we will read two separate motions and vote on each and read those into the minutes. For the first motion, I would like to ask if our Chief Financial Officer, Ed Ramos, could share what is required for this language and confirm for the public that we are actually decreasing the tax rate, which is a different motion than was published in our agenda when it was posted on Monday.
Yes. So after we've done, President Singh, Superintendent Seguda, members of the board, after doing the tax rate calculations and as part of the tax compression passed during this legislative session, we are actually increasing our total tax rate, decreasing our total tax rate by 13.7 cents. And so the motion will read, I move that the property tax rate be decreased by the adoption of a tax rate of .8595 per $100 of assessed valuation. The adopted tax rate of .8595 represents a reduction of .1371, nearly 14 cents from last year's total tax rate. The adopted tax rate of .8595 will fund the 23-24 budget and reflects a .7365 maintenance and operations tax rate and a .123 interest and sinking tax rate. The interest and sinking tax rate will be increasing by 1 cent as stated in the November 2022 bond election, and will be used for the purpose of providing a sinking fund to be used to pay principal and interest on bonds issued or assumed by the district. This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate.
Thank you, Chief Ramos. I appreciate the explanation. So the motion now is, I move that the property tax rate be decreased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.8595 per $100 of assessed valuation. The adopted tax rate of 0.8595 cents represents a reduction of 0.1371 cents, nearly 14 cents. Dollars, yeah, $0.1371, nearly 14 cents from last year's total tax rate. The adopted tax rate of $0.8595 will fund the 23-24 budget and reflects a $0.7365 maintenance and operations tax rate and 0.1230 interest and sinking tax rate. The interest and sinking tax rate will be increasing by 1 cent as stated in the November 2022 bond election and will be used for the purpose of providing a sinking fund to be used to pay principal and interest on bonds issued or assumed by the district. This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
You know, you're going to have to read it too now. No, I'm just kidding.
I take it back.
Trustees, is there any discussion on this item? Trustee Kaufman?
So, Mr. Ramos, thank you for the clarification there, but can I just verify, does this tax rate, with property values going up, with this decreased tax rate, what will be the result for the typical taxpayer in Austin?
So one of the things that we did is we actually pulled the average value of a home in Austin. And so we looked at a $520,000 home. So last year, that home with a .9966 last year's tax rate and a $40,000 homestead exemption, they would have paid $4,787. You increase that home's value 10%, which is the max that it can increase year over year. You reduce it by a $100,000 homestead exemption, and then you apply the current tax rate that we are about to adopt of .8595. So that home's total taxes would be reduced by $727. So there are cases in the district, depending on the value of your home, where property taxes will be reduced with this current tax rate.
Awesome, thank you. And so how much of this tax revenue from this, this is our primary funding for the district, right, is coming from, so how much of the revenue from this tax rate will go to AIC schools?
So we are projecting 45, we as Austin ISD get to keep 45% of the total collections from this tax rate. 55% will go back to the state in the form of recapture.
Okay. So I am fully in favor of reducing taxes, but I'm happy to vote for a tax rate that will reduce the tax burden for our community. And as a taxpayer, I will certainly appreciate the extra dollars that puts in my pocket. But as the steward of our school district, I am very concerned about lowering a tax rate at a time when we have incredible needs in our school for student performance, for solving some of our challenges with special education, with our maintenance and facilities of our buildings. There are countless, with pay for our teachers and employees who are woefully underpaid to live in one of the most expensive cities to live in the country, much less in Texas. And so I'm wondering, if we were to boldly choose to raise the tax rate, would that result in more money for our AISD schools?
It could. We would have to have a special election to do that. If we chose to reduce the tax rate even further, then the state would come and actually penalize us for that.
But if we raised taxes, would that result in more funding for our schools?
It would provide additional funding for us.
That wouldn't go to recapture?
That would not go to recapture.
Interesting, okay. So I understand the burden, I'm going to read a little bit there. So I understand the burden of any additional expenses for families whose budgets are tight, and I understand the importance of doing our part as a district to reduce the property tax burden on families. So I will happily vote tonight for a decreased rate for the Austin ISD taxpayers, especially in the midst of skyrocketing property values. But I do want to quote Kurt Vonnegut from his novel Cat's Cradle, which I first read in high school, and when he said, "In this world, you get what you pay for." So according to the Tax Foundation's 2022 report on state and local tax burdens, Texas is ranked 6th lowest in the nation for our combined local and state tax rates. So Texans are taxed at the 6th lowest rate overall of any other state in this country. At 8.6%, we are 30% lower than the national average. So Texans are not overburdened with taxes compared to other states. That's what we pay. So what do we get for that? More importantly, what do our children get for the taxes that we pay? According to Every Texan's 2022 Texas Kids Count report, our proud state ranks 45th in overall child well-being. 45th. Texas has the 13th highest child poverty rate. 20% of Texan children experience poverty, compared to 12% for the country overall. Texas ranks 51st out of 51, so we're in below places that aren't states in terms of our rating. For children who do not have health insurance, we are dead last in our uninsured rate for children in this state. 12% for Texas compared to 5% nationally. Texas ranks in the bottom 10 for public school funding, spending $4,000 less per student than the national average. And even though the Texas legislature began its 2023 session with a record $32.7 billion budget surplus and even more billions available to spend, according to the state comptroller, there has up to now been no increase in the basic allotment for public schools, not even to catch up with inflation. No statewide pay increases for teachers, despite an increase in overall compensation being the very first recommendation of the Teacher Vacancy Task Force, established last year to examine teacher retention and recruitment challenges. Meanwhile, we just voted a second ago to put armed police officers on every campus in compliance with a new state law that provides only a fraction of the money that this is going to cost the district, meaning that money will come from some other, to keep our, according to this law, to keep our kids safe, we have to take money that will serve towards educating our kids. Earlier, we voted as part of the consent agenda to make our $940 million recapture payment to the state. This was agenda item 10.6, titled Approve Agreement to Reduce Local Revenue in Excess of Entitlement for the 2023-24 school year. So it's no wonder we call it recapture, because that's a mouthful. So almost half of our AISD taxes are not going to fund our Austin schools. And given the way our school finance system works, there's really no other way to substantially increase our investment in Austin students or to pay our Austin teachers and other employees a salary that enables them to live in the city where they work. So I do want to celebrate that Austin ISD is doing our part to keep taxes low, but also remember that in this world, our children get what we pay for.
Thank you, Trustee Kaufman. Any other comments? Vice President Foster?
Yeah, I hate to do this because I don't yet have an understanding of what we get to talk about, and having it count against a likely 50% towards student outcomes and such. And yet, our tax rate is one of the core things that we establish, so clarity is useful. Mr. Ramos, I'm a little confused, and perhaps you can help me out. If we were to, my understanding is that the basic allotment is the basic allotment is the basic allotment, and that's not going to change with the tax rate. And yet, as we if we were to raise taxes, it's not going to be a penny for penny deal. If we were to raise taxes, we would get some fraction of so in other words, we would further contribute to this, I don't want to say debacle, further contribute to this circumstance where we have tons of dollars going to recapture and where we could fund 2 school districts with the money that we raise. So I guess the only, I really appreciate Trustee Kaufman raising this and putting this on the spotlight. And I also want to name the complexity of this circumstance where when we make the best fiscally responsible decision we can make, the benefit to us is often tragically discounted. So could you put some meat on that bones or tell me if I've got it wrong?
So you are correct. The tax rate that we are about to adopt, the 0.8595, that maximizes our state funding because of what's called golden pennies. So Austin ISD, we have 7.9 golden pennies, which maximizes the state contribution, state aid to school districts. If we go above that, we would have to do 2 things. We would have to have a tax ratification election, and any pennies above this current tax rate would be called silver pennies. And you are correct, we would keep a smaller percentage of those collections and send a larger percentage back to the state. So we would receive additional state aid, but our recapture payment would increase as a result as well.
Thanks for the clarification, and thank you also, Trustee Kaufman, for shining light on this.
Right.
And just one more clarification. So that increased tax rate, a sliver would stay in Austin ISD to help our schools. Would any of that recapture money then subsequently go to benefit students in other districts?
So what would in essence happen is the state would collect a larger share of recapture and use that to fund public education, but reduce what they had estimated on the general fund side and use that for other.
Right. So in short, there would be no actual, this is not a Robin Hood, this is King, whatever keeps the money.
Right.
Because there's no redistribution of it to other districts.
Poorer school districts in the state would not benefit.
Because they are capped by the basic allotment.
That's correct.
Okay, so please vote. Please encourage your legislators to think carefully about this upcoming potential session.
Thank you. All right, so having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Gonzalez. Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to correct, I mixed up my pennies and my cents when I was reading my numbers, and I want to be really
Okay.
clear about what we're adopting.
Sure.
We are adopting a tax rate of $0.8595, which represents a reduction of $0.1371. The .8595 will fund our 23-24 budget, reflects a $0.7365 maintenance and operations tax rate and a $0.1230 interest and sinking tax rate. Just wanted to be really clear that I got all my dollars and cents correct,
Thank
so we didn't
you.
adopt the wrong tax rate in our
I
vote.
appreciate
Thank
that
you.
very much. Precision is key. Yes. All right, so having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Gonzalez to approve motion number 1 for item 15.3. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. All right, Trustee Boswell, can you read the second motion, please?
Yes. I move that all properties defined by the City of Austin as historical landmark properties be granted a partial tax exemption pursuant to that certain ordinance adopted by the Austin ISD Board of Trustees on April 9th, 1979, and as amended on September 12th, 1994, August 29th, 2005, and June 18th, 2012.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Trustees, is there any discussion on this item? Yes.
For Chief Ramos, good evening. I have a question. So this being done, if the city should change how they do that, moving forward, like say tomorrow, they decided from now on, this is how we're going to declare homes historical landmarks, whatever. everything, if we say yes, then, how do I want to say that? All of the places that are determined for that, would we ever come back to this and say we would take this back, right? Would we do that if the city tomorrow said, because there is talk right now about like, how are we going to do it? Like, if we're giving more, how many homes in East Austin are determined to be historical landmarks? How many homes in other areas are being determined, or areas that are being regentrified? So that's a conversation that's happening right now, and so that's why I'm thinking about this.
So the tax code does have something in place for this type of motion, and so if Austin ISD chose to not grant this historical tax exemption, we would have to, one, say we don't approve of the exemption, but it wouldn't go away until 5 years from that vote. And so by law, we have to keep it in place 5 years from the vote that we do away with it.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so having a motion by Secretary Boswell and a second by Trustee Gonzalez to approve motion number 2 for item 15.3. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, the motion passes with 5 in favor and 2 opposed. All right, Mr. Segura, would you like to share the appointments approved at tonight's meeting?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So I'd like to say congratulations to our, I say new because she's been doing a lot of the work for quite some time, Executive Director of Communications and Community Engagement, Anastasia, known as Annie Drabaki. So congratulations to her for the permanent appointment. Also want to, yeah, let's go, that's a, I didn't know no, she's not here. I'd also like to congratulate our new Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Ms. Jamie Miller. She comes to us with a tremendous amount of experience in construction, oversight, as well as facilities. Will be a significant support within operations. Very excited about that. And then lastly, our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Academics, Dr. Mary Ann Maxwell. Very excited to bring her into the AISD family. Again, just kind of reinforcing the need to ensure alignment within academics and school leadership. And that position completes the build out of the teaching, leading, and learning group within AISD. So thank you for the support, trustees, and excited to move forward and get the work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Kaufman.
Can I just clarify for our community that those first 2 positions are not new district leadership positions? Those are filling previously vacant positions, correct?
That's correct. So when I moved from Chief of Operations into interim superintendent of AISD, we backfilled my position as Chief of Operations, which vacated Assistant Superintendent of Operations position. So that's all that's doing. And then the Executive Director of Communications and Community Engagement has been in place for a while. We just had interim title on it. Okay,
thank you. I just want to clarify, since we are, in a tight budget, looking to kind of compress some of the top-heavy piece. I just want to take privilege a minute to just say that how grateful I am to see a bilingual certified educator in the role of Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Academics. I'm hopeful and optimistic that they will be a strong voice for system-wide support of dual language education, of ESL instruction, of special education, and instruction that accesses the genius of our African American students. I'm also hopeful and optimistic that as they lead our elementary curriculum office, they will have the humility to listen and engage with students, families, teachers, principals, and people in the district office with expertise and with lived experience in these areas that we are serving. So I'm excited to see her join us.
All right, so we will now recess the open meeting at 7:38 p.m. and move to executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. When we are finished with the executive session, we will briefly return to the open session to formally adjourn the meeting. The adjournment will be recorded and be included in all replays of tonight's meeting. So thank you for joining us and have a great evening.